Holy sh! Holy sh! Holy shit! Today we're taking a look at this camera, the Caddx Infra. It's a new low-light camera from Caddx, and since it's from Caddx, you could probably guess that it's compatible with the Walksnail digital video system. But there's also an analog version for people who are flying analog goggles. And there are a few things about this camera that make it different than low-light cameras that you've seen before. At least, according to Caddx's marketing, there are. Artificial intelligence, Caddx? Really? There's artificial intelligence in this camera? I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. This 0 lux rating right here is the first thing that makes the Caddx Infra different from low-light cameras that have come before it, at least on paper. If you're familiar with cameras like the Runcam Night Eagle or the Foxeer Cat, these were what are called starlight cameras, and they have very, very sensitive sensors that allow them to produce a usable image in very low light levels, but they don't operate in pure darkness. 0 lux is pure darkness, so what could that even mean? But before we put that to the test, let's just take a look at this camera and see what the hell's going on here, because what even is this box? And you're probably thinking that that box reminds you of the Caddx Moonlight, where you've got a camera and you've got a dedicated box that has onboard 4K video recording as well as being the video transmitter. But this is not a video transmitter. In fact, this camera that I've got here is not even the digital version of the Caddx Infra. This is an analog camera, and I've never seen an analog camera with a great big box hanging off it like this. I guess that's where they keep the AI. What are the dimensions? 33 millimeters square by 13-ish millimeters tall, a little more if you count the screws here. In this particular frame, it would just barely fit in the rear, but remember, this is not a video transmitter. You still need a video transmitter. So there wouldn't be enough vertical space, maybe just barely enough vertical space to get a analog video transmitter in there, but as you can see, the mounting of the video antenna is going to be in the way, so we would need to solve that problem. And in this case, the box will fit with plenty of room to spare, but again, we have a problem with vertical clearance. Here's the Infra box with a Rush Tank Solo on top of it, not a very thick video transmitter as they go, and you can see that my standoffs are not tall enough. So I'm going to just jury rig this by putting spacers on the standoffs to raise the top plate. If you decide you're going to use this camera, though, especially on anything smaller than a 7-inch, you're going to want to make sure you're going to have room to mount it. What about the wiring? The wiring is actually not complicated. The Infra wires up just like an analog camera. You can see there's 3 wires, power, ground, and video, and it's going to the analog video input on the flight controller. If you're using the digital version, it will connect to your Walksnail video transmitter, just like any other Walksnail camera, using a MIPI cable. Presumably, I don't have one. And then the video transmitter wires up to the flight controller, just like a video transmitter. So the wiring is not complicated. The Infra takes between 9 volts and 24 volts. You might be expecting, well, for a camera, you might be expecting down to 5 volts, and for most accessories on a quadcopter, you might be expecting 2S to 6S. That's not the case. That's kind of weird. Oh, nope, there we go. I don't know what that was all about. For the record, it does that every time you power up, so it's not quick to get into the action. But let's put it in a dark freaking room and see just how, like, it's supposed to be 0 lux. So here's the room that we're going to be using for this test. It has no windows, so it can be made pretty dark. We're going to tuck a pillow under the door here so no light comes in under the door, and we got some LEDs on the quadcopter here, so we're gonna just tuck it into bed. Oh yeah, so if you're a little, well, I guess there's a little light reflecting, but you do as much as you can. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna turn the light off. Ready in 3, 2, 1. But this is not as dark as the room can get. Let's close this door. It's almost like pure darkness, and we're still picking up some details. I'm not sure how the frick it's doing that. It's got to be just from ambient light sneaking in, right? This is a infrared flashlight. So let's see how this responds to infrared light. Ready? I'll just kind of open up here, and I'm just going to shine it under the door, under the crack of the door. Ready? Whoa! Holy shit! Like, look how fast it reacted. That's crazy. Like, literally just holding it under the crack of the door. is enough to really totally blow out the room. So it looks great in a dark room, but what's it like to actually fly it? And I think in order to test that, the first thing we're gonna do is fly it out here during the day. And I know what you're saying, this isn't a daylight camera, so what's the point? Well, even if you're intending to fly at night most of the time, sometime you're gonna fly in the day, right? So let's see how it performs. And the first thing I noticed just standing right here is that the field of view seems a little like narrow. Like I've talked to a lot of FPV cameras standing in pretty much the same exact location, and I think normally you can see a lot more, like my head's a lot smaller and you can see a lot more to the side of me. I don't know if that's gonna make a difference when we fly it though. Only one way to find out. Well, yeah, we got a little bit of issue here with electrical noise. Maybe need to add a capacitor or something to the power supply. You'd think they could fit some capacitors in there with how big the damn thing is. But, oh, what? Wow, it felt like there was like jitteriness or stutteriness. What the hell? I can't tell if it's latency or what. We got to measure the latency of this camera. I definitely am seeing that sort of diamonds pattern from the electrical noise. It's not the brightest of sunny days out here right now. Like obviously it's sunny, but the sun is kind of behind a cloud. Oh, there we go. Now the sun's coming out and we're getting some real highlights and we can see what that's like. Seems usable. Like in the distance, the highlights are really blown out. But then as I get close, like they kind of fill in. It feels like there's more latency here than a typical analog camera. Maybe even more latency than like a digital video link like DJI. The field of view is definitely smaller. I don't find it like impossible to fly. Like I've flown with cameras with a really narrow field of view that were just like impossible to fly. I'm having not a lot of trouble. But as I get into close proximity, see, like I couldn't tell how close I was to the edge of the roof here because I couldn't see the edge of the roof out of the sort of corner of my eye or the corner of the camera as it were. Oh, see, like almost flew into those branches, because I just didn't quite have the field of view that I would want. So we'll have to be a little careful when we're in proximity. As we go into a darker place though, we're doing okay. I feel like I feel like the lack of color information is making a difference. Like here, this is just a great big field of gray instead of being able to see sort of greens and browns. Oh, this should be a freaking rock star though. Like here, we're gonna be amazing. Can I get video? Oh yeah, easy peasy. Easy peasy. How dark is it? How will I get out of here? Oh God, okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what, let's take it inside and let's test the latency of this camera on the bench. Quick refresher on how we measure latency here. I've got this LED and it is wired up to this button. When I push the button, the LED will light up. The camera is pointed at the LED, the video transmitter is transmitting, and it is going through to this display. What we're going to do is look for the difference in time between when we see this LED light up and when we see it light up on the display. And normally, to see that difference in time, it's so short, it's 16 or 30 milliseconds. What we do is we do a very high-speed camera, 600, 900 frames per second, and we count the frames, and we use that to detect the time. But watch this. You can literally see the delay. Like it's just, I was using like a high-speed camera or anything. It's crazy how much delay there is. Now, here's what's really confusing me though is I would have said that 100-ish milliseconds. I always say that above about 60 milliseconds is where I really start to feel latency, and somewhere around 100 milliseconds is where it starts to just become unflyable. I wouldn't say that that was unflyable at all. It was not great, but I wouldn't call it unflyable. Clearly, the faster I was going and the more precisely I was going, the more it would start to matter that the latency was there. You wouldn't want to race with this, but for the kind of flying I was doing, and maybe for the kind of flying this camera is made for, it was flyable. Now I want you guys to see how this performs at night. And it is like full night. I mean, it's not like pitch black because there's some lights coming from my house. There's about a quarter moon, but it's full on night. And no, I'm not going to cheat. Hold on. Turn the light off on my radio. Let's see how this camera does. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy crap! Ah! Okay, stop swearing. I cannot believe this. Holy... Oh my gosh! Look at the stars! You can literally see the stars! What the frick? Oh, I gotta fly this. I'm kind of scared to fly because I know how dark it really is. And I kind of don't trust the camera. Oh, the latency. Holy Nikes. What in the dickens? I cannot believe how bright this is. These are just little tiny LED lights. These are just little tiny LED lights. Look how bright they are. What in the dickens? I'm trying to dial down the swearing. Holy. And then, oh, wow. Oh, okay. But how does it handle it? Like over here, these are my, some lights, but does it deal with it okay? Does it deal with the exposure? That's fine. That's fine, dude. Yeah, once you get there. And then into the darkness. Wow, my God. This is insane. I can't believe I'm flying around in this darkness. It's like it's almost not even there. Oh, I could just barely see those electrical wires. Still. What if we punch up a little bit? What in the frick? This is insane. Oh, it's really interesting. Oh, that was me flying over myself. I freaked myself out for a minute. I was like, what does that sound? Oh, it's really interesting to see the trees without the white sheen that comes from the UV. When the camera doesn't have a UV filter, foliage always has this bright white sheen on it. That's actually UV. It's purple. Holy moly. I can't believe I'm doing this. That's the road over there. Oh, this is insane. And we dive down into a dark area. Oh, I think I feel the latency changing. Maybe it's just because I was going proximity. I wonder if the latency changes when it gets dark. No, because it was bright during the day. Well, I don't know. What if we go back here? Well, I was going to say this area is dark, but my neighbor has all their frickin' lights on. Oh, God, I'm going to lose video. I'm going to fail safe. I'm okay. Oh, interesting. So definitely struggling a little with the detail through here, just because the exposure is kind of can't decide, the strong backlight. Still very usable. Dare I go into the barn? Dare I go into the barn? Oh, it's too dark. Is it? Is it? It's actually pretty dark. Oh, this is it. This has got to be the limit right here. Like, oh yeah. Still. No, I can... No, that's just the limit. Oh, the latency's being weird. Whoa, I don't like this at all. Okay, that's like the limit. I feel like that's the limit. Oh. See that flashing light? That's the tiny blue LED on my electric fence. Just looks bright as day. Still, like, I don't feel super confident going into here, but I can see... Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. No, it's getting weird. Okay, something happens. I don't know if it's latency or just the details. It gets weird when it gets that dark. It's, like, super dark. But out here, man... Where am I standing? Don't hit yourself in the head. Out here, man. Oh, it's blurry. Oh, it's so blurry. Oh, when I get moving fast, the shutter has opened up and it's super blurry. So I don't actually want to do too much of that, but I'll do a little more. Yeah, wow, no, don't freestyle at night. That was not confidence inspiring. Holy mackerel. Like, just for normal flying, though, like, this is fine. Oh, the field of view is not helping. Yeah, and it's just a big blur. I kind of can't see the branches because it's just all one muddy blur. But the fact that I can do this at all is insane. Insane. What if I go over here? Can I get through these branches? So if I go slow... the details come in. It's almost like, I think it's kind of muddy when it's moving, but then details kind of fill in. I wonder if that's like the AI thing they're doing. I don't know. Like if you look at this branch, like if I spin around, oh, I can't make out any detail when I'm moving. See, it's really muddy. And then it settles down. Maybe that's just motion blur, I don't know. Like, still, wow. This is crazy. Oh, God. It's really interesting to tell, like... Oh, God, it's so dark. I just lift up the goggles. I can't see shit. It's so dark. Can't see shit. Oh. It's really interesting because, like, while I'm flying, I cannot tell when I'm about to, like, everything looks bright. And then you'll dive into a really dark area and suddenly you'll hit the edge of what the camera can do and you'll be like, so you have to be a little careful. But, like, the fact that I'm doing it all is insane. What was I going to do? Like, I could just hold this camera and walk around. And it's like daylight. Wow. The Caddx Infra is, hands down, the best low-light camera that I've ever used on an FPV drone. But it does come with some compromises. And I'm not even talking about the cost, because, like, if you're trying to get a camera with these capabilities, then you're probably willing to pay whatever it costs to get it within reason. And the price of it is within reason. The compromises I'm talking about are things like, well, the latency. So if you're trying to do fast, high-precision flying, you're going to be better off going with a starlight camera like the Runcam Night Eagle or the Foxeer Cat. These have almost as good, but not quite as good low-light capability and much better latency, just much better overall performance as an FPV camera in general. Also, the size of the camera. The size of the camera is not that big, but having to put this external box into your build and figure out how to fit it in your build with your video transmitter, if you're building something from the 7-inch and up, then maybe it's going to be a little easier, but something in the 5-inch and smaller category, this is going to be a deal breaker for a lot of frames. Earlier in the video, I noticed that this thermal connection was here on the back of the camera, and I wondered what that was. I did a little more digging. It turns out that Caddx is releasing this camera not only in an analog and a digital Walksnail avatar version, but there's also a thermal camera you can connect to it. You can only find it on AliExpress, and the listings kind of come and go. It's almost like they don't want you to know it's there. But this is actually a single unit that can be used with analog, Walksnail, or a true thermal camera. And the same wiring and the same installation. That's kind of interesting. You will need different cameras, just to be clear. It's not one camera that does all of that. And I looked at the specs of the thermal camera, and it's got like a 50-degree horizontal field of view and like a 30-degree vertical field of view, it's no good for FPV flying. All the thermal cameras have these really tight field of views, like people are zoomed in. But maybe there are some situations where that would turn out to be useful. In short, the Caddx Infra is a very specialized piece of kit that does one thing better than just about anything else on the market at this price point, and has a few drawbacks. But if the thing you want is the ultimate in low light performance for your FPV drone, this is the one to get today, at least as far as I can tell. If you do decide to pick it up, there are links in the video description below. They are affiliate links, so I sure do appreciate it. When you make any purchase at the affiliated vendor, after clicking one of those links, I get a small commission. It's one of the easiest ways to support the channel, just to find those links or even bookmark them and use them before you do your shopping. I want to give you this before you go. I want to show you my review of the Walksnail Pro camera. It's barely even like a starlight camera. It's just a really low light sensitive, normal daylight camera. And in my opinion, it's the best all-round camera for the Walksnail system. It's the one that I use as my go-to. And I think you'd be impressed with its low light performance, even though it's nowhere near as good as the Caddx Infra. I'll put a card on screen to that, as well as a link in the video description below if you're interested in checking it out. Ooh, you know what else? What about DJI? There's a DJI Polar. I'll put my review of that, but actually there's a Night Eagle for the DJI that's probably even better. So maybe you should go find a review of that. See you there.